everyone, it's Erika here with CH Financial. I'm really excited to be introducing Ellen Parker on our chair chat today. So Ellen and I have known each other for quite a long time now and are both professional women. In Calgary, we have young families. We take leadership roles in our organizations, committed to our communities and health and fitness as well. So there's a lot of balls that we're juggling at any given time. And I'm excited to kind of have a chat and sit down with Ellen to see how she handles this and manages it, and then delve a little bit into a leadership conversation. So Ellen, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Erika.
Yeah.
So happy to be here with you.
Yeah, and I should not, mention that you are the CEO of Parker PR, who is the PR firm that we at CH Financial work with very closely and have done a lot of great things for our business. So we're just excited to have you in any capacity.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Erika. Yeah, speaking about all the different hats we both wear, we both have 2 children and families, and I, as you mentioned, own my small business with 7 full-time employees, and I know you run a team as well as the VP here at CH. So it's interesting managing and juggling people and teams, and I think with leadership, really the number one ingredient is you have to lead by example. So, and I know you work very hard as well. So I think if either of us come to work and we're expecting teams to produce and do good work, it all starts with us. And that's, I think, the motivation to be able to have a good team is motivated to get up early and have the routines that we have, and really show the team kind of what we need to do to keep the ball going.
I agree 100%. And I think one of the things that I really try to work on with my team as well is empowerment. So I think a lot of people, particularly women, I think in professional roles, have a tendency to try and do everything because it's easier when you know how to do it. You can do it faster. So you just try and rip through it yourself, and that can really leave somebody feeling stretched. So I think something we try to do here is really empower the team to take on more responsibility, and as much as it helps the leadership team that they're doing these things, it also gives them a feeling of empowerment and ownership of the work that we're doing in our businesses. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I find helpful, I always think of, the 3 S's for my team. So stimulation, strokes, and strokes are positive reinforcement, positive encouragement, and structure. So if we have those things, so the team is feeling empowered and you're able to identify. I read a book called Radical Candor recently, which is fascinating, and it kind of identifies you have a rock star and you have a superstar. And the rock stars are consistently working, they're great, they keep everything on course. The superstars are amazing and they're doing the fireworks, but they need that constant stimulation to stay motivated. So making sure that you're identifying your team members and responding to them in the ways that work well for them around stimulation. And then the strokes thing is about positive reinforcement. Even constructive feedback is a stroke. An unauthentic compliment is not a stroke. So really being able to determine what kind of works with your team and what they need, kind of around the love language as well, something to think about with a team. And then of course structure. So during COVID, of course, we've seen it's been hard to have a structure. And our program has been providing individual structure for each of the individual members, what they need, when, do they need to work at home? Do they need to work in the office? But now that we're coming out of COVID, I think that's one thing for all leaders to consider is rethinking what the structure of their team looks like.
It's a really good point, and I think especially COVID has shown us as leaders that you have to have flexibility and you have to know the team that you're working with. I know for some of our office, it was a bit of a struggle because we had some people that were really great at working from home and they were actually sometimes more productive in that environment, and then some people it's a little bit tougher for them. So you have to make sure that you're developing a framework that works for the people that you're bringing onto your team, and then understanding kind of what motivates them and what structure they actually need to be able to perform.
Absolutely.
So Ellen, you had mentioned previously about kind of leading by example. What would you say are the top 2 things that you do to lead by example, and then also the top 2 things you struggle with? Because I have a couple of examples where I find it really tough to lead by example sometimes.
Yeah, so good questions. I think number 1 is in my personal life, I really demonstrate the qualities that I bring to the office as a leader. So how I manage my children and my family, I think my team sees me working really hard in my personal life, being the chair of my parent council, being very responsive to my children's needs, showing the demonstration and care and commitment I do in my personal life. So, for example, even my early morning routine, like we talked about how we've had a full day from 5:30 when our alarms go to 9 when we get into the office. So number one, leading by example through how I kind of work in my own personal life at home. And then number two, I would say my communication in the office. So I really like to ensure if there's an issue among the team, they hit it head on. If someone comes to me and says, Ellen, I have a problem with so-and-so because a ball got dropped. My approach is, well, what does the best version of yourself look like in this situation? Does it look like going to that individual on your team, communicating them in a nice way, coming from a, I'm okay, you're okay perspective? That is what good communication looks like. So because we're a PR company, of course, we need to lead by example in that way. So I would say those are the two things that I try really hard to demonstrate
and succeed in.
Thank you, hopefully, always learning. And then also two things that I don't always demonstrate through my own actions, I guess, are the structure piece is always a challenge for me, the balance piece. I have a husband who was recently unemployed, but prior to that, even though we both have careers and we're working often, if one of our children is sick, I'm the one that's dealing with it. I'm the one that's managing all of that. So I think I speak about balance, but I'm not always demonstrating effective balance. I think that's always a challenge, especially for women. I think motherhood is the biggest challenge as a career person that I face. And I think whether or not you want to admit it, it's true for every mom to juggle, because you have two loves, right? You have your family and your children especially, and then you have your career.
Yeah.
So the balance piece is always a challenge.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not always just logistical. Sometimes it's feel too. So that's great. Well, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and probably will after the segment wraps up. But I think that shuts it down for today as far as this episode of Chair Chats. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you online as well, and we'll see you soon.